I'm George Curtis. Welcome to It's Your Environment. Each week it's my privilege to bring a show to you that tells you something about our environment and why it makes a difference, what's special about it, and who's working on it to make it better. I happen to be as close to heaven as I'm ever going to get. I'm on Rush Lake, the dam on the north end of Rush Lake. And I have a guest who loves Rush Lake just as much as I do. His name is Brett Helmbrecht. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, George.
How far back do you go on Rush Lake?
I grew up hunting on the Horicon Marsh and coming here a few times a year with my dad and hunting at one of his friend's properties on the east side of the lake. When I moved out of state and I moved back, my wife and I looked at each other and said, where do we really want to live? And we said, we want to live on Rush Lake. We both do a lot of outdoors things and we're planning on being here forever. So we love the lake.
Well, for those people who don't know, Rush Lake is in Winnebago County, town of Nipieskan, and it's off Highway M on this end, Highway E or Cork Road on the bottom, and E on the west side, and it's an interesting lake. Just describe it for the people, please.
Yeah, so Rush Lake is a prairie pothole lake that's around 3,000 acres. Prairie pothole lakes are ones that seasonally fluctuate with the water level raising and lowering, and that results in good emergent vegetation growth and other vegetation and a really dynamic environment that's really beneficial for waterfowl. One of the things that you don't usually see on a prairie pothole lake is a dam like this, but it's something that we've been having on the lake for about 150 years or so. And in our 2006 restoration, an old insufficient dam was replaced by this new, much more modern dam to help us regulate the lake much more like a prairie pothole and help it achieve its full recreational and aesthetic potential.
So you're regulating the amount of water in the lake, and I'm sure you're aware of the fact that that's a controversy between the high water people and the low water people that's been going on for at least 200 years.
Absolutely, yes. You know, with the water level, we're at a period in the lake where we're keeping it up. You know, we did our drawdown for the restoration in 2006, 2007. In 2012, the drought that we had very much simulated kind of a drought period in a prairie pothole lake. The water level dropped and vegetation really sprouted, which is part of the problem we have today, and why we're using the dam to our advantage to help keep water level a little higher over this period.
Well, 150 years ago, the issue was between the trappers who wanted muskrats, so they wanted water backed up into their ditches and they could make a living with muskrats. On the other hand, we had another group of farmers that made a living cutting marsh hay, and they needed low water so they could get on the marshes. What's the controversy today?
I'd say the controversy today is just the overall result of the restoration that we did in 2006. I could boil it down to a couple things. Install a new dam where we can regulate water level more effectively, so when we do have a big influx of water, we can get it off of the lake. That'll allow us to help prevent the degeneration of vegetation, which we noticed in the 50s, 60s, and 70s when we lost our bulrush and the lake became an open water spot. And by putting a new dam in and being able to regulate it with a 2-year drawdown on top of it, the bulrush is going to germinate and regrow, and you're going to see Rush Lake looking like it did before. A lot of bulrush, maybe some cattail, and it'll be a very usable lake with clean water. The water's clean. We don't have issues with lead like we used to. People are catching fish out there, but right now the challenge we have today is it's very much a lot of cattail, and the north end of the lake is pretty impenetrable, and we're looking to do something about both of those.
And let's make it clear, this makes a difference to people who aren't duck hunters. The duck hunters might be most vocal, but actually this area is used by people who just enjoy wildlife, who are photographers, hikers, picnickers, bird watchers, and a healthy lake is good for all of those people and their interests.
It's good for all those people and their interests and all the animals that use the watershed. If you look at the north end and just the solid stand of cattails and how shallow it is, it's difficult for animals to get in there. You don't see ducks using it. Muskrats can't get in there to much degree. And without any open water, with only one kind of vegetation, it's difficult for any and all animals, including us, to get in there and use it to enjoy it and really be a part of the lake.
Now, muskrats are native here, and tell the audience why it makes a difference to the muskrats what the water level is.
Yeah, so some of the reading that we've been doing after the drought in 2012, we're we noticed a real drop in the muskrat population, and in digging into some published studies that were done by both the state of Wisconsin and the federal government, if there's not 18 inches of water in the winter, the muskrats aren't going to make it through winter. And while they do spread and branch out from where they are currently living, it's not a huge spread. So when we had the drought in 2012, we lost a lot of the rats, and they were on the north end, which had the vegetation problem. So getting them back into the north end is a real big part of trying to help open up more water on that side of the lake.
And why should it make a difference as to whether we have rushes or cattails?
Bulrush provides so much more to the lake that cattail doesn't. The kind of cattail that we have a lot of is hybrid cattail, which is highly invasive and outcompetes a lot of native species like bulrush. It's not much of a food source, and it just overgrows everything. Bulrush, on the other hand, provides a food source for wildlife, and it's the plant that Rush Lake was named for, and it's something that we should aspire to be, and it's something that we can achieve if we really take another look at it and figure out a workable management plan.
Well, when I came to Winnebago County about 50 years ago, I would see thousands of ducks and many geese and lots of songbirds. But slowly, the lake seemed to take on rotting, smelling vegetation, carp, a loss of clarity, and the bird population dropped. Then we had a group of people who wanted to restore it. Are you telling us that it's on its way back?
I would say it's very much on the right track. People are enjoying it. They're hunting, they're fishing, but there's a lot more benefit that we can add to the lake through our continued management of it.
Well, Brett, let's take our first break, and when we come back, we'll find out the plans of these people who are willing to make Rush Lake better for all of us.
That sounds great, George.
We'll be right back.